Hey legends, my name is Mo and welcome to the Can't Can Will podcast. I'm a Royal Marine who is dedicated to optimising human performance and want to bring you exposure to the fantastic people supporting the same aim. In this episode, I speak to an individual who served in the Royal Navy for 23 years and is now practicing functional movement neurology. We talk about his devotion of sports rehabilitation and his passion for making people better tomorrow than today. Episode 1, Mark Jones. Hey mate, how's it going? So what's the best thing you've done in the last week or so?
Put Christmas back a day. I weren't ready for it. So.
Oh really? Why's that? You've had like 365 days to plan for it.
It seems that way. No, I just felt so burned out from this year. It's been such a crazy year. So I just couldn't face all the prep and the rest of it. So I just pushed it back. So Christmas Day was on Boxing Day and it worked really well. Whole day in pajamas. I was happy with it.
What, on Christmas Day? Yeah. So was the big man kind to you? Did he bring you anything nice?
He did. He brought me a younger woman, a younger model.
Oh wow! Okay,
it's been a good year.
That's not a bad year at all.
Santa's kind.
Oh, fair play. So we're going to go back to the start of your professional career, really, and you know, if you could just relive the moments where you decided, I tell you what, joining the Navy is a good idea, and just talk us through that time in your life. I think that'd be a great starting point.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we go back a few years. So I just always had this romantic notion about life and adventure, and I just wanted to kind of get away from just the status quo of where I lived. There was no one really inspiring around me. Everyone seemed to just live in the same place and their families all grew up in the same place, and that just really made me uncomfortable. So yeah, I tried to join the merchant navy from about 16 years old. I wrote multiple letters off and I never really got anything back. I had a string of jobs that I'd rapidly get bored in. I think I counted 16 jobs until I finally ended up going for the Royal Navy, and I was 18 by then. So I joined as a chef, and it was my ticket out. Really, I'd started doing the YTS chef scheme. That was pretty interesting, and yeah, that was 1991. So we're going back a couple of years. First Gulf War.
Just
after, yeah. I waited till it's finished.
Well, if there's any consolation, I started secondary school in 93.
Yeah, you're not helping, mate. It was all in black and white.
So you signed up for the Navy and rally, it was then, yeah? How did you find the training?
I think it's just different. You don't know anything. You don't know anything until you try something new. So I enjoyed it, actually. I enjoyed being different. I enjoyed knowing that my mates back home weren't doing the same stuff that I was up to, and it was also knowing what was to come. It was the unknown. I love the idea of the unknown. I get bored if there's a routine and I know what's coming up. It does make me squirm. So yeah, I kind of like the idea that life can go wherever it wants to go, and that's where it started to happen for me. And I enjoyed it. I loved the things I was learning. I learned about me more than I learned about the Navy. So, and that journey never stopped.
And so what did you learn about yourself, about training?
Just what you're able to do. I think as a young lad growing up, you know, life's not exactly hard. You know, there's obviously bits going on, but then having to do your own washing, ironing, cleaning, all the things that come from just basic living. You have to learn it all yourself. There's no one to do it for you. And you learn that you can stand up for yourself and do a lot more stuff than you previously thought possible, because you have to. So
yeah, right.
That was good.
How did you feel when you finished the training?
Well, obviously, I'm going to be embarrassed saying this. Obviously, you're a Royal Marine, and Navy training is a snip. It's 10 weeks. I was really proud. I was really proud. You know, even to wear the uniform with the flares, albeit. Yeah, and I was proud to wear the uniform and actually be doing something purposeful. And I think that's been the core of everything I have been as a person to date. I just wanted to be useful, not just whip through life and actually have no effects. I really felt the journey had started. I didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah, of course.
So we whisked off to chef's training in Aldershot, which was a massive come down working with the army. Accommodation, although it was pretty low standards, went lower.
And was that straight off? So you finished basic training and then went straight into chef school?
Yeah. So what was that? That was like 12 weeks. as a chef. Then you do the catering side of things, and then you get drafted straight after that. So yeah, within a year, full year, I was fully trained.
And where did you go after that? What was the life like as a chef?
It was interesting, actually. It was good because you're learning a skill that I've never forgotten. And all the jokes apart, no one's qualified as a chef. No, I learned some really, really good skills. And again, it's also about, you learn resilience. You learn the fact that there's days where you don't want to do things, but you have to. So you have to kind of step up to the plate all the time. And to be honest, I think even though where I'm at now, I sat in this clinic on Exmouth Quay, one of the things that stuck with me was that you've just got to get stuff done. If there's jobs that need doing, you've just got to get it done, and massively came from being a chef. I think even when you're on board a ship, you could be hungover or seasick. That counter goes up at 11:30. And the men will get served. There will be food. Get on with it, and that's really stayed with me. I think I've taken a lot from being a chef, and most of it's not cooking; it's mindset.
It's a pretty thankless job as well. If you produce some good food, you never sort of get a pat on the back, but you'll know about it if you produce food that's not to the liking of the customer, shall we say?
Yeah, you never seem to win. And it is hard work. It's seriously hard work. I mean, some days you're in the galley for sometimes 16 hours and that as it's told. But you learn another level of resilience in that respect.
And describe what a galley is on board a ship and why it's tough to operate in those conditions.
Okay, so the galley sits above the engine room, just on the sea line of the ship. It's right in the middle of the ship, and it's literally a floating kitchen. Everything's compact, condensed. The space is fairly meagre. You've got multiple ovens and hot plates, and it just gets red hot. The environment can be really uncomfortable, especially I think once we had it up to 52 degrees in the galley one night, which was warm enough. No one went cold that day. And there's multiple chefs, there's different watches, people preparing different meals, and everyone's working around each other. You learn about your own space. You learn that you have to be cleaner than clean, and you really have to manage your space and your time effectively.
And what would a typical day look like?
Well, the chef's watches would start. You'd do a duty watch. You'd be on from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 at night. So you'd work through the day preparing. So you'd prepare the evening meal, and then you'd come in the morning. You'd do the morning watch, and that was for breakfast. So you'd be up like 4:30. So you'd be up 4:30, cooking at 5, and then you'd thin out, they call it, leave the galley about 9 o'clock, and then you was on call for any other kind of watches, firefighting. So there's multiple jobs on a ship. You don't just do your job. There's other responsibilities. Yeah, and you just roll through watches like that. So there was a 4-watch system. So there was always people available. You was either pot wash.
It was a good job, that is. I remember pot wash well.
Pot wash, yeah. If you're under pun or you're a chef and it's actually your day job.
Gas compactor.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, that was always a good one.
Waist deep in everyone else's crap.
Yeah, that was always a good one. So where did being a chef in the Navy take you around the world? Whereabouts have you been? What's some of the memorable moments that you had?
I had two ships, 2 sea drafts as a chef, all down through the Gulf, down to Singapore, through Egypt. That was really interesting. All through India. So I've travelled most of the world.
Did you get to stop off much?
You do. You'd get 2, maybe 3 days, but obviously the work still needs to get done. So you just continually roll and work through that. So you don't really get much time off. But yeah, we all down through the Mediterranean. It's interesting. We've travelled to so many different places, and it's like I said, it was hard. It was hard graft, but really rewarding at the same time. I think the fact you're able to achieve it. It weren't necessarily the rolling out the top cuisine culinary expertise on the counter. It was knowing that no matter what was thrown at you, you could overcome, you could adapt, and I always liked that. I like knowing I was kind of thriving,
in that environment. No, it's interesting to understand that side. I've always been the other side. I'm the one that when the counter goes up, looking at the food, thinking, "What on earth is this?" I don't even know what it is when you look at it, let alone what it tastes like. So it's interesting to try and understand the other side of the counter, as it were. Was there any operational deployments?
Yeah, we had Kosovo. We were down in Kosovo. We were just sat off bravely away from the coast.
What was your ship's task there?
So we were just patrolling up and down. We were just being available should anything happen. I think we got buzzed by one aircraft, I think, but that was like 400 mile away. So they tend to deploy weapons and then bugger off quite rapid. So we never knew what was going to happen. It was an interesting time, but you're in defence watches, so you're either 6 hours on, 6 hours off, or 8 chefs tend to work 8 watches. So you just don't know what day of the week it is. Time's irrelevant. All you know is when you're off and when you're on. So that was interesting. Yeah, I think you're just prepared for stuff. I always kind of wanted something to happen.
It's probably the worst thing is the not knowing.
Yeah, I think there was a buzz. There was just a general buzz. We all just wanted our training to kind of mean a little bit more. We wanted it to kind of happen in a strange kind of way. Not that you want people to get hurt, or obviously with what war brings, but you just wanted. It was just one of those things. You wanted to know, could you cope with it? Because obviously the Falklands was a big one for the Navy. You know, we lost so much, but we learned so much. And not to reminisce, that's the wrong word. But it was just a case of I always wanted to find out what I was capable of doing. So, and I think as a young guy, as a young lad, as young people, you generally don't have the fears that you do when you're slightly older. So you look back, you're a little bit more rough and ready. You want a little bit of something to happen. You want a bit of excitement, and that's kind of all it was, really. But it was good. It was good.
And how long were you a chef for?
I was a chef for 8 years. I spent 8 years trying to get out of it.
Yeah, okay. So that wasn't obviously your career choice when you joined the Navy then?
No, it was. I knew it was a passport in, but I knew it weren't a thing I wanted to stay doing. I just felt I was a square peg in a round hole. A lot of the chefs would get a little bit frothy and happy about what they were going to make and produce, and a lot of Navy chefs, particularly, they go down the competition route. So they'll either be cake decorators, or they're really interested in producing like the high end quality food. I was happy just to cook enough stuff.
Just not on ship for Marines.
Yeah.
So you sat there one day and you're like, right, I need a career change. So explain that decision and why and where you ended up.
I think it's a strange one. I've always looked at it and looked back and thought, I don't even know where that came from. I always wanted to be a physio.
Okay.
And at the time, there was no such thing as a physiotherapist in the Navy. There was no exercise rehab instructors, which is what I later became. But I just had this sense of purpose. Call it what you want, but a sense of destiny that I needed to be in the job I'm in now, but I didn't kind of know what it was at the time. So the closest thing I could think of was becoming a PT instructor, which for me, being Sport Billy, as in the opposite of Sport Billy, couldn't catch, throw, kick or bat. I was useless, but I was just drawn to it. I don't know what it was. I was drawn to it, and the kudos of the job. And there was one of them on a ship. You know, there's multiple of other trades, but there was one ship's PTI, and he seemed to get away with the most. And you know, he was able to create all these different things. Like, you're a bit of a red coat as a PT instructor on a ship. You do all the sport, you keep everyone fit, but then also games and, you know, things like bingo night, because being on a ship is monotonous. So I saw this guy who was able just to create stuff and have fun, and I was just drawn to that. I love the idea of that. But essentially I wanted to be a physiotherapist, so I ended up trying to pursue it. Strangely, call it destiny, call it what you want, I don't know, but I was drawn down that route.
How did you find the course?
PT course itself, I found really difficult because you're getting ragged every single day. You've got to produce written work. So you're up at 5:30, 6 o'clock every day. You're finishing work, gone midnight most nights, producing paperwork, doing rope climbing, gymnastics, vaulting. You know, you're really being put to the limits. And then you've got to learn every sport, referee in every sport. So one of my main injuries came from netball. Yeah, I was embarrassed to say that, but yeah.
Good game. It's a good game.
It's quite vicious, some of these women. Yeah.
Very vicious.
I've learned. Don't take them on face value. They can be badass.
Yeah, agreed. And so how long was that course?
That was 6 months, that was. HMS Temeraire in Portsmouth.
And a lot of physical fitness on there as well?
All day, every day, yeah, it's relentless. So you'd do 2, sometimes 3 circuits. You'd be out for a run. You'd be doing, as soon as you join the course, your starting pass out preps, which is gymnastics, club swinging.
What's
the
that
old school
dance that you do as well?
The one that Marines always take the piss out of us for.
What is it?
That's called the hornpipe days.
That's the one, yeah.
You like that? I'll teach you that.
It's
after
interesting, and I think that anyone listening to this should Google it, and or have a look on YouTube.
Not my proudest moment.
Yeah, it's fairly good, isn't it?
White flares. It's a traditional dance of
Something
the
out of the
sailor.
1970s. So, I mean, you mentioned there that it's a relentless course. Did you do anything specifically to prepare yourself for that? And how did you manage to keep getting up every day and keep going and doing that? Knowing, I'm sure there'd be a course program that you'd be forecasting, in 2 weeks we've got to do that, or next week we've got... How did you overcome that when you was on that course?
I think it was more about not wanting to go back to being a chef. I knew that I just had enough, and it was this or bust. It had to be this. So that was my driver. It was what I didn't want to go back to. Outweighed what I wanted to go towards, if that's the right word. I didn't really get on with the instructors to start with. In fact, for the majority of the course, yeah, they didn't take to me. I weren't a PT groupie or anything, so I will admit I was naive. I didn't really know what the course entailed. I saw a bit of fitness instruction on the flight deck, and I thought that was it. So yeah, I kind of muddled my way through. I just didn't want to fail. That was the thing. I just wanted to succeed. So I had to become resilient. The saying, "You can't break me, I'm a rubber duck." Sometimes you just get past the hour, and then the next hour, and then at the end of the day, after selection of hour or collection of hours, you've made it through the day. And for me, a lot of the PT course was like that, because I knew that if I didn't live like that, then I probably would have had my spirit broken, I suppose. So I knew that just by narrowing it down hour by hour, I could stay, and it was just take the little successes. I'd managed another day. And then, lo and behold, I managed the entire course. I'd done enough to pass.
So you finished your PT course, which is a fantastic achievement. What was the your first assignment as a Royal Navy PTI?
It was RNS Culdrose, so the air base down in Cornwall and Helston, and that's where you really learn the job, and you realise that 90% of the job weren't on PT course. It was more of an administration role. So you're organising so much, and it just takes over so much of your life, and you have to commit. You have to be seen to be out there, to be doing the job. So there was a lot more expected of me than I previously expected. So I was a bit bewildered by it all, I suppose. It weren't what I thought it was going to be. So that's when I started having a look around to see what else was going on, and that's when I first met a rehab instructor, and that just sounded amazing. So
what was it about that though? Like, what did the rehab instructor do, and why did you think that sounded amazing? What was it that you connected with? Because ultimately, the introduction to that particular individual has kind of shaped what we're going to discuss as we move forward in this little chat that we're having. What was it about it in essence that you went, that's it?
Okay, so to contrast the job, my job as a PT was just to sign out squash rackets, organise events.
It's important if you want to play squash though.
It is, yeah.
If you didn't do it,
no,
people
I was rubbish
couldn't play
squash. No, it just seemed it was just too much routine. I just couldn't love the job. I just couldn't love it. It was just administration. You had to organise this, and before you'd even organise that, there was something else you had to organise, and it just seemed like there was just this relentless paperwork trail. And then I saw this guy that he was talking a different language. He was talking a language I liked. It was like his anatomy and how he could understand how the body moved, and how if you did a certain tweak here or a tweak there, or you exercise this, you could get someone out of pain. And then I saw a purpose. So it was, you're not just jacking up hockey matches and trying to cajole people into playing a sport. All of a sudden, you was really helping someone. So you was changing someone's life, and I think that was the massive draw to it, and it still is now. It's still my driver is to be purposeful, to be able to make a real significant change to someone's life. That was the draw, and if I could do it through this, I was all up for that. I wanted a piece of that.
You obviously hooked on that. And you ended up on the exercise rehabilitation course.
Yeah, that's right. It was Headley Court. You do your aptitude, make sure that you're okay, you're with the knowledge. So it's a 6-month course in Headley Court, and it's tri-service, so Army, Navy, Air Force. And it really felt like I was finally stepping up. I did feel very proud to be on that, and very, very honoured, especially when you go to places like UCL, the University of London, where you work on cadavers, people who donate their bodies to science, and you're respectfully allowed to have a look at how the body works. So you're literally picking up someone's leg and you're having to pull around at the muscles and the tendons, and you just knew that there was this newfound respect for the body, what it does. And it was just this ingenious, this living organism that's the human body. It was just this wow moment. And I've never stopped appreciating it and marveling at it. And every year I learn more, I know more, I see more. And it was just incredible. I realized I was learning some very precious knowledge. And I've always been very, very grateful and proud to have been through that. And when we turned up, it was a fairly quiet place, and that was just as Afghanistan kicked off. So it went from being a real ghost town and not much going on to being absolutely ram-packed to the rafters with these young guys. You know, I remember coming out, me and the lads were bitching about homework we had to have. We had like an inch thick pad or collection of paperwork, and we had to learn this stuff. And we were like upset that we had to do all this stuff. And I remember vividly walking out the door. As I opened the door, this lad went past in a wheelchair, a leg missing and an arm missing. He had a claw on his hand, and he was trying to push his wheelchair up the slope. And I just looked at the other guys and I was like, gents, we got no problems at all. You know, we're really lucky to be healthy. You know, we've got our arms, we've got our legs. Yeah, we've got a bit of homework to do. So that kind of made us work even harder to want to learn more, to be better for these people. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be worthy and be able to make a difference to someone. That's what I wanted to do, but realistically make a difference. So yeah, we were around a lot of people. It was quite harrowing when you saw the sheer extensive nature of the injuries that some of these guys came back with. It was insane. So yeah, that allowed me to learn at a better level.
And so what year was that you did that course?
That was 2007, that was.
Okay, and then you finished that course, and what was your first job as a rehab instructor?
That was the regional rehab unit in Plymouth.
Yeah. And
that was running residential classes or residential courses. They were 3-week courses. So I really love that model, and I want to steal that model when I open up a larger clinic later on. But it was a really, really good setup. So you have a MIAC clinic, a multidisciplinary injury assessment clinic. And in that clinic was a sports med doctor, a physiotherapist, and an exercise rehabilitation instructor. So you had this contrast of skills and perspectives, and we're all looking at different things. So we're able to provide a bigger cross-section of service to them while they're on this 3-week course. So they could turn up with, they would normally split down into 2 courses, backs or spines, and then low limbs. So anyone who had a low limb injury, didn't matter what it was, but you'd rehab for 3 weeks, and you just got to work with them. But for me, that was the turning point, because that's when I realised then that you're not working with an injury. No one's an injury. Everyone's a person, and 2 people can have the same injuries, but because of their backgrounds, cultural differences, lifestyle differences, life experience differences, that injury meant something different to each person. And that was a real eye-opener. That's when I started realizing, wow, the person, you have to work with the person. You have to rehab the person, not just the injury. You got to get in their heads first and win them. And that was one of the biggest learning curves I ever had. It was a big light bulb moment. It was like, I see. Get the person, then you can rehabilitate the injury. That's what I found.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, because you know that type of environment is quite. I found it had a profound effect on me, as it clearly did with you. But moreover, when the work that was being conducted at Haslar Naval Service Recovery Centre was just, for me, something else. Like it was incredible, and I know that you had got some vivid memories of the place.
I have, yeah. I mean, if we fast forward, so I'd left the regional rehab unit. I went to Dartmouth and then HMS Raleigh, but then I got selected, and I felt so privileged because I was the first Navy rehab instructor to get to Haslar Company. Haslar being, it was a complex trauma unit, as you know, Mo, obviously you were there before me, but it was genius. It was a home given to Royal Marines who'd suffered the atrocities of Afghanistan, whereas a lot of tri-service would go to Headley Court. Hasler was created to give Royal Marines a home, so they had somewhere to come back to, so they could identify with, and it was a stroke of genius, I think, just the actual creation of it. But then with what it served to do, and the sheer cross section of injuries and traumas, the emotional traumas, PTSD, triple amputees, like right across the board. So to see the scale of it was harrowing, but then to see that no matter what someone suffered, they were still that same person inside. And yeah, the human resilience, that's where I really, really saw the spirit of the person. No one can crush the spirit of the man. Only the man can allow it to be crushed. So no matter what injuries anyone had sustained, as long as they had the spirit and that willingness to succeed and overcome and adapt, you're going to win. And I've seen that with a lot of the guys who've gone on. Yes, they got maimed in war, but a lot of them, they've gone on to do greater things because of that, in spite of their injuries, in spite of what they had inflicted on them. They used that to become better. They overcome that. A lot of people have gone off. The mad explorers have gone and done 5 continents, solo, unsupported. That's incredible. I mean, would these guys have done that before? No, I don't think they would. A lot of people have achieved like great things because they suffered adversity, and I don't think you should slip through life being comfortable. I think you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it just seemed that those who suffered the most had more resilience, and they had more drive to get out and do more. And I think the other thing as well is because they were in a group together, they weren't sent home on their own. They didn't suffer on their own. They're around the same like-minded people with the same banter, that dark black humour that just gets them bouncing back. They were the ones who thrived because they were brought back into that environment. It was that they belonged. They were around their own people. And I love that. And I saw that was the most powerful thing. There was all these different treatments and therapies that were available. But the most important therapy I ever saw was just guys being together and just sharing their experiences. That for me was just wow. I saw that change people's lives. And you'd see broken people coming into Hasler, and then you'd get them ground zeroed, and they'd start building new things on top of that. And that was incredible for me. So yeah, and I use that every day. I never ever forget any day in Hasler. So I use that every single day, and I use that to inspire people who come through. It might be someone's nan, might be a school child come through with a fairly minor injury, but I draw on those experiences, and I tell some of the stories about what the guys had gone through, and people are still inspired by that. So good can still come from adversity. I think it's how you perceive it, it's how you choose to view it.
Is there any particular standout stories that are off the tip of the tongue that you remember, that you use still today?
No, there's nothing, because they're all amazing stories. Each person's background and story and their injury and their road to recovery was different. But it's just that collective. It just seemed to be, if you wanted it, if you wanted the change, if you had the will and the spirit to do something, you could do it. There was like a process. People would turn up. They were broke. They were downbeat. Someone inspired them, someone mentored them. I know that you did a lot of that yourself, Mo, because the stories I heard were all about you when I joined. So obviously I stepped into a big shadow. That's twice the size of mine. As long as there was someone there to meet them, to motivate them, to show them the way, to mentor them, they could then move on and become something better, something better than they already were, because they were able to change, but they were motivated and encouraged by the people that were around them. So it was the process more than anything else. And I think that's what I try and do day to day here, is I try and do that mentoring as well. So people come in with injuries here, and I'll treat that, but I'll also treat that person remembering how it worked in Hasler, and I'll try and motivate them and encourage them and show them that there is a way, and no matter what you suffer, you choose to get out of bed in the morning, you choose to overcome it. Don't be defined by your injury or disability or label that someone's put on you. You can choose to say no to that, and you can choose to move on from that.
There's a perfect mix there, where as you said, the guys and girls were around like-minded individuals. They had people around them to support them both domestically and professionally, and that's part of the reason why I got out of bed in the morning. There's been no job that I've ever had that's topped that. But I think the third supporting factor was the content. To me, it wasn't necessarily about doing physical rehab with these people, as you've said, and that's the reason why you did all the computer work and I didn't, and I just basically sat on the mats having a chat with everybody. But it was the content, and I was fortunate enough, as you were, to go out to America to the Wounded Warrior Trials, unfortunately out to San Diego.
It was tough.
It was a real tough trip, and out of all the incredible and inspiring stories that would happen out there, one story that I still laugh about now was, and I'll keep him nameless, but those that know. My roomie decided he was going to go out for a few beers, and he came back, and that night he slept on the floor because he didn't want to wet the bed, because he had a bit of a problem with that. But he wet the floor, and so he went out the following night, and he slept in his bed, and he wet the bed. And when I asked him in the morning, why didn't you sleep on the floor? He said, because I'd already wet that, and it was a new place that I needed to. This was the only dry place left, and it was funny. But that was an incredible experience out in America.
Yeah, it was great, especially to work with the Americans out there as well, and they're really held in high regard out there. They're like national heroes for what they've done, their service, and I think we were able to follow suit. I think the British public got behind the guys, and all of a sudden, just from being squaddies or whatever we were called, all of a sudden people were saying thank you to the guys, and you could see there was pride there as well, and I think that was encouraged by the Americans. But yeah, it was the scale of it, and it was the overcoming. So obviously it was the Warrior Trials preceding the games, and it was just everyone was an athlete. I love that. People were just athletes. You weren't viewed upon by what bits you had missing off you or what you couldn't do. It was all about you're part of it. You are an athlete, and I saw those kind of opportunities really change people. I mean, Prince Harry with the Invictus Games, just the sheer mention that it was going to happen changed people. All of a sudden, they weren't disabled, and you'd never get a serviceman calling themselves disabled. That's it
provided the element of competition.
Yeah,
about his equality was what I found. It was less the actual events, but more the opportunity to be able to compete on an even playing field. And that was what, for me, watching that happen, really, as you mentioned, the ground zero really then started to build people. And if you remember on that particular trip, you had the likes of Frank Spencer, who is a world record holder, having rowed across the Atlantic not once but twice, 4-man crew single. We've got the likes of Chris Hayes, who's now set his own business up. Think of the place that he was in. Nick Goldsmith, who's got Hidden Valley Bushcraft. JJ Chalmers, who's now a bit of a dancing queen on the BBC. Paul Weiss has got his own business now, employable. I mean, none of them have become sporting stars, but the success that where they've grown into has been really incredible to watch. And it's almost like being a youngster, a young boxer's boxing coach, and watching them become the world champion without you there. And to be a part of that is certainly I found was pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I think sport does that. It provides an opportunity where there's adversity or an opposition. And life does that. I think sport and business and life generally, they're all the same things. Sport is just on a very small scale, as in time-wise, time spent playing. But you have to adapt. You have to live in the same way. You have to have the same mindset. So there's an opposition. Do you choose to stand up against it? Do you choose to overcome? And it's like there will be challenges. You will get knocks. You will get niggles. But it's transferable skill. That's why the old RFU, the old rugby players, before it became a full-time profession, they were all high-flying businessmen. And I think it's because of the same ethos that they had on the pitch as they did in business. And I think that's what we're seeing now is those sporting opportunities showed them that they were still relevant, they were still worthwhile, they're still in the game. because I think they felt a little bit knocked out. Oh, I don't have this anymore. I can't do that anymore. But what it showed them is what they could have instead. If you can't change the situation, you've got to change your perception of it. And that's what I think was the big success with the Warrior Games, with Invictus. They saw themselves differently, and they allowed themselves the opportunity to change and become what they truly can. And I think a lot of people really achieved their potential because and only because of that adversity. They probably wouldn't do it. People would have been stuck in their same jobs. And I'm not saying being a Royal Marine's easy by any stretch. It's the hardest military course in the world, but some people won't go beyond that. These guys were pushed out, and it was like, all right, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. To talk of Nick Goldsmith, to go off, he's one of the top guys in the country, if not the world. Bushcraft, he's highly sought after because his hand was kind of forced in that direction. Chris Hayes with his amazing artwork with the welding, it's incredible. But they sought to change, and I think those opportunities provided the future for them.
I agree with you. But I don't think you should underestimate the value that you had in that process, because whilst that might have forced them into making a decision, none of it was done alone, because there were people there to support. And having had conversations with the guys, the work that you did was invaluable because you have a passion for it. And it doesn't surprise me that your transition into civilian life has remained on that trajectory of trying to support and help people, but in your own right now. So the decision to move away from the military must have been quite a tough choice. I mean, you're knocking on a bit in age anyway, but so it probably forced your hand as much as it did anyone else's. But explain the transition from 25-year career. Like what did that feel like, and what did you then move into?
Well, I think I did my full 22 years service, and then I got extended at Haslar for another 18 months as a reservist. I love what I was doing, and I love the guys, and I love the purpose. We designed a program where there was other things going on. So there was like a music course and a cookery course, and there was...
The cooking was good. I remember going over there.
Yeah,
who was the chap that was the
Rod Naylor.
Yeah, that's him. He was an amazing bloke.
Yeah, we had Michael Caines, because Rod actually taught Michael Caines how to cook.
Yeah.
So he pulled a little favour and he got him in as the figurehead. But I mean, that was incredible. But the general background to it was, what could we give these guys back? They went away as this strapping Royal Marine. Something bad happened. There was explosions. They were maimed. They came back, and they were no longer able to serve as a Royal Marine. And they were pretty damn beat by that. But it was just a case of, there's got to be good stuff still to go. So my first thing was, right, let's put them on a bike maintenance course. So if you can fix your kid's bike for them, you're back to hero, Dad. And that was it. It was a case of, come on, let's give them some skills back. And then we had that. Then the cookery kicked in. I mean, one lad, he actually became he re-qualified as a chef, and now he's working in a Michelin star restaurant just off the back of, he just happened to turn up. We had...
Is that Grayson?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, it's I love seeing all that stuff. It was opportunities. We had Debs Morris, the Sergeant Major's wife. She was brilliant.
Yeah, Al Lasser, wasn't it?
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah.
He didn't even know he could draw.
No, he rocked up to steal the pencils.
Yeah.
I'm only coming at steal the pens. He got bollocks for that.
Yeah, and how he didn't even know. How amazing was he?
Well, he can draw like a black and white photograph. If he did these amazing pictures. One of them was an elephant, and I thought it was a photograph.
Yeah.
He's like, no. I
didn't even know he could do it.
No.
Yeah.
So the deal was, it was a case of, right, because there was a lot of guys there. It was like 50 people at one time, all in Haslar at one time. There was multiple people.
Maybe we could have given him a watch and he could have turned up on time as well. Maybe that would have...
But it was like, you can because the thing in the military, everyone likes to bitch about everything, and I said, right, look, you can bitch about any of the things that you've done. I said, but if you haven't tried it, you ain't allowed to pitch. That's the rule. So if you want to bitch about the cooking, you got to go there once. And if you want to bitch about the art, you got to do that once as well.
And if I remember rightly, Junior McElhinney was moaning about the art. He says, I don't want to do the art. And he ended up going to the art class and loved it.
Yeah.
And Junior is actually rowing across the Atlantic right now.
Yeah, he's out there doing that right now, and it's incredible. I think the one thing that stood out for me, that was the very first art class, and it was pastels. They had to do.
The lads only turned up because they thought they could eat them.
They wanted to eat the
They're not fruit pastels, lads.
But the room was filled, and it was our first thing. I was a bit nervous because it was like, oh, I wonder how this is going to go. And the vivid memory is Junior standing up, because I mean I won't go into it, but he got blown out of an armoured vehicle and he had his legs crushed by the turret or the gun itself. So this poor guy has been in agony, and no amount of meds was kind of denting the pain. He wore his pain every day, and he came up. He put his pastels down. He didn't eat them. Didn't eat crowns. Good. And he just said, "That's the first time I've been out of pain for an hour and a half since I got blown up." And we're talking years here. So that was when I started realising like how powerful the brain was and the creative side. And another thing I saw was that wherever there was darkness, another light shone. So one guy, Ed, Captain Ed, Gentleman Ed, he started writing poetry, and if you ever read that, I mean, people were chopping onions, your eyes were streaming, and it was insanely good.
Potter. Yeah,
and it was just like, wow, these guys who'd suffered adversity got this new super skill. Al could draw,
Yeah.
Junior
could eat pastels.
Can eat pastels. But it was, and that's the human spirit, they're right there, and that's one thing I took. But sorry, I've gone off on a tangent here. But to answer your question, how did I transition? I felt I was squeezed out. I had a bit of a time. I was signed back in. I was given an 8-year extension to stay in the Navy. At the time, I was the highest qualified guy they had. I enjoyed the job. I was told I could come back into HasLab, but then Navy drafting, being what Navy drafting is, sent me somewhere else.
Yeah, I remember. And
I just didn't fit anymore. I didn't fit. I'd learned too much. By this time, I'd got a sports rehabilitation degree. Got me first class honours there, I will say. Only because I was desperate to learn.
They didn't have that program Turn It In though, then, did they? Where they could scan the plagiarism.
No, that was your course afterwards.
There's the one after mine, actually.
No, I mean, so I just wanted to know. I wanted to know how things worked, and I didn't like not knowing. And the fact when you got people who are your friends, they're your oppos, and they're in pain, and I didn't have the answers, and I didn't like it, and I couldn't stand not being able to help people. It really stings, and I still don't like it.
But that drive you used didn't you self-fund a course in Chicago? Didn't you fly out? What course was that you? Because I remember when you did that, and everyone was looking at, what are you doing? Like, that's why are you flying out off your, paid thousands of pounds to go to America to go and learn about a different way of rehab. I mean, that's you all over. Your quest for thirst for knowledge is pretty impressive. But what was that course all about?
So that was a Gray Institute, driven by Gary Gray and Dave Tiberio. I was on my degree. One of the instructors, Chris Paul, he teaches all the things that the university wanted to teach us, and then he'd go, "Do you want some secret sauce?" He said, "This is how the body really works." And basically, it's all back to front. Everything that the books say about biomechanics, which is basically how a human being moves, is back to front. So take, for instance, I won't bore you, but the hamstring, if you're laying on a plinth or if you're laying on your front and you curl the hamstring, you fire that. So people think that the hamstring flexes the knee. It brings your heel up to your backside. In reality, it doesn't. It does the exact opposite. When you're swinging your foot forward, the heel hits the ground, then the hamstring engages to prevent the opposite movement happening. So it was really like putting on back to front glasses and looking at the body completely back to front. And then for me, it was just this massive light bulb moment. It was like, oh my God, that's how it works. So I'd seen all these little things.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's not necessarily what we would learn on the rehab course. I mean, but then in fairness, the rehab course that we did was a foundation anyway. Yeah. It was a basic. for want of a better description, it was a basic, although quite intense, information dump to provide functional rehab as we knew it. I mean, this must have been, leagues above what you'd been doing.
It was insane. Yeah, I mean, the Headley Court course was brilliant. It was the foundations, like you say. It taught me exercise therapy. So for those who don't know what it is, an exercise therapist would use exercise as a medicine. You'd get the body to move in certain ways. You'd strengthen muscles given specific exercises. But they kind of worked and then they kind of didn't. And it didn't make sense. Why would someone with an Achilles problem benefit from this exercise? And then someone who had the same thing, they're not. It's like, it didn't make no sense. So it was why? I just become that annoying kid that the parent wants to just bugger off, leave them alone to the telly. Why does that not work? Why? So on the degree, we were shown this new interpretation of functional movement, and that was the Gary Gray course. And I'd learned enough. I'd seen how it kind of worked. I got the gist of it. And the thing that made me put my money where my mouth was, I had this big Royal Marine come in with knee pain, and he'd done 9 months rehabilitation for this knee pain that just wouldn't go away. I mean, he was built like a crap house door. He was 6.5 foot tall. He weren't that far short, like wide, and he had this knee pain. So I used some of these little tweaks. So I would just look how the foot worked, look what the hip was doing, and then like the thoracic spine, the rib cage, basically. And I looked at him and I said, "There's nothing wrong with your knee." He says, "Look," he said, "I've got a knee pain." He said, "I've done 3-week-long rehabilitation courses. I'm seeing physiotherapists and doctors. I've had steroid injections. Of course I got knee pain." I said, "No." I said, "Your knees are actually good." I said, "What's not working is everything else. Your feet, your hips, your back." So we did this stuff. And anyway, lo and behold, in 2 weeks later, he was running where he couldn't run for a year, I think it was. So yeah, I went to America. It was 3 times out. I had to self-fund. But I knew I was onto something. I knew there was a bigger picture. And I felt, even though I can't explain it, I knew it was going somewhere. So I felt it was a worthwhile investment, and I saw masses of changes in people, just little simple tweaks. I mean, I've worked on someone who was a high flyer guy for Virgin, and before he landed, he'd have to take a serious amount of medication because he knew his back pain was going to be so bad just from sitting. I did a biomechanical screen on him. I wiggled his ankles a little bit, and he's never had back pain since. So it allows you to see where the problems are coming from rather than just chasing the pain. Someone will present with pain in their knee or their back, and it allows you to stand back and not be sucked in by it, but to find the root cause of it. That course allowed me to leave and transition. So yeah, I tried to implement these new movement drills, and I think they thought I was a witch because I was just doing different movements and they didn't understand it. So I was kind of told that I weren't allowed to use it. So it was naughty, but I was like taking guys into the freaking broom cupboard and saying, "Don't tell anyone you're getting better." On a rehab course. It was just a little bit. It was a little bit silly. I won't go into the politics of it, but basically,
it's probably fair to say that what you were learning was ahead of its time, and maybe and now it wouldn't be as taboo because it makes sense. But 5-6 years ago, that is not where that wasn't where we were with our rehab. It was a different way of thinking. It was quite innovative and pioneering at the time, which is exactly the reason why you loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it still is. The driver is the human body. It's just insane. It's off the charts. We still don't understand it. Every specialist in every unique niche of studying the body, whether they're a doctor, a physio, they're the highest part of the tree. They know the most with all the research out there, and they will do research articles, and every single research article finishes with more research is needed. We just don't know. If we want to jump off and go quantum mechanics, we have the ability to go subatomic with the electron microscope, and we can look inside an atom. We can go subatomic, and then we can see what's inside a cell. You go down into a cell, you go into an atom, and then you go inside to the subatomic particle, and there's actually nothing there. It's just spinning particles of light, electrons and protons. There's nothing in us. So effectively, we don't exist. So that's when you go, all right, I'm tapping out Pandora's box. So yeah, we just don't know enough. But with with neurology, with looking at how the brain works. You're looking at a computer, software and hardware. The stuff I'm doing at the moment is just I genuinely see the miraculous every day, and I've come to expect it now because I'm looking at this amazing human body. I know we did a little bit earlier on. I just tried to give you a little bit of an introduction to that. But we're seeing that the body can heal itself. No one. So here's the thing. Here's fact. No one can heal you. Only your body can heal itself. Whether it's through willpower, through nutrition, through meditation, your body will heal itself using whatever's available. It's the most ridiculously resourceful, amazing, adaptive, overcoming organism. It is the most complex living organism in the universe.
I mean, for the people that are listening, surely I'll go to a doctor to heal me. Is that not what they're for? I mean, what's the context behind that statement?
Okay, so a doctor would look at your symptoms, and based on your symptoms, it would make a diagnosis, and then there'd be an intervention. It could be rest, it could be medication. But we know that medicine doesn't work to fix or cure the problem because they're aimed at mopping up symptoms. There was a convention last year where a collective of doctors from around the world went to Brisbane, and the sole purpose of that meeting was Western medicine isn't working. Why doesn't our diagnose and prescribe medicine? Why doesn't it work? Why is there so many variables? Why doesn't it all work the same way? And it's because every human being is like a fingerprint. You've got to look at your physical health, your emotional health. You've got to look at your past histories, traumas, your culture. So they're all factors involved in that. Belief system, there's the placebo. So if you believe something's happening, a majority of the time it will. That's one of the biggest problems all drug companies face is the placebo test. It's the last test. By time a drug has made it to that stage, it's well into the £100 million mark. And then they've got to go up against placebo. And that placebo is, does the drug perform better than the person believing the drug does? And that's really, really key. Essentially, the body will heal itself, or in any situation. So all we can do is provide the environment. This is the answer to your question, really. People create a change of environment. So a surgeon would take away something that's not good, something that's catabolic in your system, like a tumor. They would take it out, but it was your body that was kind of creating it in the first place. Why does that come back? A physio or a therapist like me will create certain changes in the body, but essentially it's the body relearning and changing the way it's sending out its impulses, its information. There's three things that happen in your human body. Information comes up from all the sensory organs. So if I kicked you in the toe or stamped on your foot, that information will go to your brain. Your brain works out what's going on. You'll either say ouch or you'll knock me out. You'll do one of the two. An effect will come. Sensory information to brain makes a decision, and out of that comes an output, whatever that may be, and everyone's different. I mean, there's something called New Germanic medicine. That's a really interesting one. That was Georg Hamer. He was a German doctor who was a cancer specialist, and he developed testicular cancer. And 3 years before he developed this cancer, his son was murdered. He was shot and murdered, and then his body goes into this state, and he creates this testicular cancer, according to him and his research. 40,000 research studies or articles later showing that emotional traumas create these tumours in our body because it's an adverse effect. One of the models or stories he tells is if a fox cub is sick in the wild, the mother cub, all she can do is nourish that cub. So she'll proliferate, her breast glands will start producing more milk to nourish the cub. There's two outcomes: cub lives or dies. Mum does what mum can do and produces milk, excessive milk. And they've shown that if in a human being, if a child has been really ill in hospital and the mother's been unable to help, there have been correlations and links with that and breast cancer later on in life. So it's the body having an adverse effect to an emotion. And I've worked on a daily basis with people who have certain dysfunctions, and it's an emotion that's creating a problem or keeping tension. Take your upper trapezius in your shoulders or your sternocleidomastoid. They're just muscles up and around the neck and the shoulders. They're cranial nerves that drive those muscles, unlike all the other muscles in your body. So if you're carrying tension, you're pulling your shoulders up around your ears, you can see it, and that creates tension and migraines. So someone's migraine headaches can come from an emotion they've got, or overwork, stress, overstressed at work, should I say. So we're human beings. We wear our emotions. If you get embarrassed, you go red. That's a response, it's a reaction. So to go backtrack, I do kind of wander off a little bit here, but it's just the genius of the body. The body will heal itself. Medication will create an environment for a time where the body can just get by and then start healing again. First of all, you've got to find out what is the cause. What's caused the pain? What's caused the problem? What's caused the tumor? What's causing the thing? And once you go after that, then the body heals itself because you've taken out the problem.
So what is the latest direction that you're heading on? You've recently just qualified in a new sort of innovative field area, shall we say? And so just explain what that is and why you wanted to do that.
Okay, so I'm developing myself to become a functional movement neurologist. The beauty of today is you can call yourself whatever you want, so I kind of call myself that. So
I'll just call you Jonah. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll take anything as long as it's normally 4 letters coming from you, mate. But no, so functional movement neurologist just means function. You're walking, you're moving, you're doing normal stuff. So it's a bit of a glam title for something we do every day. And movement is, we're designed to move. Muscles move bones. And the neurologist is just the software program, the brain that runs the system. So I'm just trying to harmonize rehabilitating functional movement, how someone moves, gait being the pinnacle. We were born to walk. So walking is the apex of everything a human being can do. Everything after that is secondary, but walking is where it's at. So I can use walking gait to look at what's going wrong in someone. So I'll look at that, but then I'll use the neurology to correct the software program for that. So I've studied 2 forms of neurology: applied movement neurology, run by Dave Fleming. I've been studying that for 5 years, and also PDTR, proprioceptive deep tendon reflex, which is a fairly new creation from a Mexican spine surgeon, Jose Palermo, who apparently, I don't know, but he's on the autistic spectrum, so he's got this super brain. I apologize if that's not the case, but that's a story I've had. But this guy, he's a top end surgeon, and then he uses his brain to map out how the body works, all of the receptors. At the moment, we know there's 18 different receptors. There's billions of them, but there's 18 specific ones. So we've got hot, cold, tickle, itch, scratch, rub. You've got bump. You've got sharp stimulus. And basically what that is we can take out noxious stimulus in the body. So the thing I'm studying at the moment, the thing I'm working with, and pretty successfully, is all the injuries that you've ever had in your body are still there on your nervous system, in your master system, on the computer.
Almost like a digital record within your body.
Exactly that. So the human body, being what it is extremely resourceful. So it can suck up a few little injuries, a bump here and a knock there and a little bit of something here and a trap your finger in the door and a bump on the nose. And it will take a lot. It will take a hell of a lot for it to start acting adversely, but small changes will happen. So you roll an ankle, for instance, the information now coming through that ankle, so you stretch a ligament, that ligament has stopped sending 100% information. Let's call it now sends 90% information. So your brain's now dealing with one foot that's sending some really crisp, clean information, and then it's getting this other foot. I mean, when you look at what a foot does, it has to hit the ground. Within the second, it has to hit the ground. The brain has to know how hard it's hitting, what the surface is, whether it's on stone, on the beach, whether it's up on the woods, whether it's slipping, whether it's on ice, whether it's on concrete. It then has to adapt to that ground and load into it. So it has to start lowering the arch of the foot to absorb shock. And in order for the muscles to all take up the tension, ready to fire off. That's a serious amount of data hitting the brain. And your brain processes 4 billion bits of information a second. You know, it's a supercomputer. You're comprised of 30 trillion cells that all have live access to your brain.
So using that as an example, I then injure my ankle. The body, with the help of external remedies or operations, will look to structurally fix that issue. And structurally, everything seems to be fine. But what we're saying actually is that the brain, your internal computer system, doesn't work in the same way as it did prior to injury, even though that the structure might look and feel like it functions in the same way.
Exactly, yeah, exactly that. So a nice way to look at it is the computer. So you've got the software and the hardware. So your hardware has been insulted. It's had a knock. It's now been damaged in some way. The modern intervention would be surgery if required, or put in a pot and let self heal. Or what we were trained to do was to stretch it and strengthen it. Essentially, that's what a rehab instructor would do: stretch and strengthen. And it was always thought that was all it needed. But if you think of each ligament as being like a fiber optic, sending information to the brain, and also the brain's interpretation of it, there's a really interesting model you can look at if you go Google Images. It's called homunculus man, and it looks like a cave troll man, and his fingers are massive hands, huge great big bulbous head with eyes, ears, everything's...
It's a photo of me, isn't it? And I could see that's what you're thinking. I could see it in your face.
but it just looks weird, and it's got these scrawny little legs, so we're not too far off, you know. And these big feet. But basically, it's how the brain sees your body, how the brain sees it through the information it receives. So if you injure something, it stops sending as much information, and it kind of like shrinks. So your foot shrunk. So you injure an ankle, all those receptors start sending slightly less information because they've been damaged. Your brain thinks your foot shrunk, so it will make you either micromanage that foot by getting more weight onto it. So that's where we see a lot of postural imbalances from. Your body's just kind of swaying over. It's micromanaging this dodgy foot that's not sending it enough information. So it tries to protect. Everything's about protection and being useful. But what we can do now is we can treat that like a software virus. This is where it gets really, really clever. So we can go after that ligament. We can give it a little bit of a stimulation, and we can test that through muscle testing. So, for instance, earlier on, Mo, I had you laying on your back on the plinth, and I tested your rectus femoris muscle, your quad muscle. And it was testing strong. But then if I went after and I prodded any area, we found a couple of little spots around your head. No surprises there, buddy. And it made you go weak. Your body shut down because I'd irritated or I'd provide a stimulus that was potentially noxious. So when it comes to a ligament in your ankle, we could just press into that. And if that makes you go weak, we can see that there's a problem there. And then we use that PDTR, deep tendon reflex. And for instance, today that was not today, but you hit a tendon, you just strike it, you give it a little knock like a reflex test that the physio would do with a little rubber hammer onto your knee. Or for us, we can use just tapping on the nose, and that creates the same reflex. So we provide a little bit of stimulus from the ankle to the brain. We hit a DTR once we've done a couple of other little bits, and then your brain restores it. So it reboots the software, and all of a sudden your foot grows. I've had some crazy kind of conversations with people afterwards, like what they say. And one woman was walking around and she had these massive builder's boots on because her feet weren't working, and I did a bit of work with her, and she's walking around as if she's kind of pulling her feet out of the mud. She goes, "My feet are massive." So for me, that's like, it's brilliant. That's gold dust. It just means your brain is now fully engaged with the tissues. It's now working.
I mean, I was quite surprised how easy it was for you to switch on and off with literally a few taps on certain parts of my head, or having my hand on the back of my neck, and then all of a sudden muscle working all right, muscle stops, not working all right. And I found it quite mesmerizing how instantaneous it was to go, how did you just do that? Although that injuries will require culture change in someone's life to prevent and nurture and recover from, but there's a lot of people, they get instantaneous improvement just from what seems to be quite simple, but actually has got quite a lot of deep science behind it.
It really is insane. I mean, it's there's so much to learn about how the body works, but I think at the moment we're at a really lovely place where we're all the professions are starting to come together and talk the same language and start to understand because of the internet, and we're all sharing information now. Everyone's looking over the fence, so we're able to learn a lot in real quick time. So all this knowledge is flooding through now, and someone will learn something and they'll put their own spin on it and put that information out there. So we're learning at a real rapid rate now. But where we're at the moment is we're just seeing this supercomputer that can just restore function. Just like I had a lady come in and she ruptured her Achilles. So that's the tendon going from the heel to the calf, and like a full rupture coming in for a fast bowl. You know, she's a cricket player. She was running up to bowl. She'd done it 1,000 times before, but this time she snapped her Achilles. We know that the Achilles can hang a mini car off it. You can hang a mini off someone's Achilles. It will not snap. So why do we get these injuries? Why do muscles tear? Why do these injuries happen? What we can see now using this approach is the muscle's not innervated by nerves. They're weak. They're flaccid, and it's a surprise because I mean earlier on I was showing you that. I mean, you're a big bloke. Your legs are like tree trunks.
Some might call me massive. So.
And modest as well, which really goes along.
Yeah.
And we can just shut you down. I can get you to look at 2 lines on a bit of paper, homocalatic crawl, and that will shut you down on us using a software dysfunction. So your eyes will look at across, like the actual just a cross, like you do mathematical cross, and that will make you strong. But then if your eyes focus on two lines where there's a gap between the two, it creates dysfunction in the brain. It creates disorganization.
That's something that I couldn't understand. I'm literally looking at a cross and you couldn't push my leg down and you show me an equals, so basically an equal sign, and you push my leg down. You mentioned about the squat. Explain what you said to me earlier.
Okay, so it's currently believed that you're as strong as you are. Your strength is your strength, and that's not true. Your nervous system is a moment by moment, and if that's a nanosecond, that's a nanosecond. What we know is what you're referring to there is the vestibular ocular system. The vestibular means the ear, the gyroscopes. That's the deep inner workings of the ear with the otoliths and the semicircular canals, and then they're yoked to the eyes, the ocular. So the vestibular ocular system is your, for all intents and purposes, your gyroscope. It's a threat detect system. So you're looking around, you're looking where horizon is, you're looking and monitoring threats from everywhere. Is the floor icy? Is that guy about to pull a knife out of his pocket? You know, your body's constantly looking for threats. So it uses this system as the apex system above everything else. So if you've had a dysfunction, and I hope you don't mind me saying, if you've had you play rugby, you do jiu-jitsu, you've been in Royal Marines, you know, you've been knocked about a fair few times. There's like these fire alarms that go off in and around the head. The jaw is really important. Anywhere on your cranium, if there's noxious stimulus, so like this fire alarm going off that you're unaware of, it creates a dysfunction. So what we did with you earlier on, Mo, I just got you to look up into the top left-hand corner, and that made every muscle in your body go weak. So if you're working out and you're training and you've got a deficient vestibular ocular system, you lose all your power. So I've heard multiple stories, people deadlifting and they prolapse a disc in their back because they've got dodgy back. No one's got a dodgy back. If the vestibular system goes out, the muscle system shuts down and follows suit. So for instance, you might have had a real dysfunction, a heavy dysfunction, looking into a certain direction, because it's about mapping. It's how the whole brain works, how the brain works as a whole, using the system to look into a direction where there is a brain dysfunction. You'll shut down. You can't be strong. So if you ever trained and you looked hard up left for whatever reason, you was looking at a clock or something, you will lose strength and you potentially won't be able to drive back up out of that. Or worse, you'll start injuring yourself. Your spine becomes unstable. I mean, the amount of times I've had people come in and say, my core don't work, I've been going Pilates and yoga and I've just got a weak core. It's like, no, you're an athlete. While you're sucking in air and blowing it back out, you're an athlete. And and you have everything you need available to you. Why is your brain not choosing to use that? So a lot of people get tight hip flexors. Here's a really nice one. Tight hip flexors and low back pain. People always complain of these two things together. It's because the hip flexor attaches to the spine and people give it bad press, or they'll trash talk themselves. Oh, I got a crappy hip flexor, it just won't turn off. It's like, no. Step back. You are in charge of the most complex living organism in the universe, and it is choosing to do this. Why is it giving you a tight hip flexor? It's choosing to do this, by the way. It's not a dysfunction. It's not just, oh, I've just got dicky hips. It's choosing to do it. When you look at how that muscle's situated, the hip flexor or psoas muscle runs up all your lumbar spine. It attaches to all the transverse processes, all the bones that stick out to the side, either side. So it's in a position to protect you and stabilize you. So the real question is, all right, who's not working? So this thing has to. And I've found in 99% of the time, the vestibular system, I get a little bit lightheaded and dizzy when I stand up quick. All right, alarm bells are going off. I don't like bright lights. Another alarm bell is going off. It's like your vestibular system ain't working. You can't create strength. We hear these stories about these little old ladies who can roll cars off of kids. You know, the car's on fire, so they roll a car off. I mean, this is some little old lady, not like a strength or a power lifter. She has that ability to roll that car. That's just given. But up until that point, her brain's been assessing, going, no, too dangerous. I'm not letting you have that. Your brain will only let you have the strength it trusts you to have. So if there's an imbalance, if there's an ankle injury, you can squat your ass off for the rest of your life. You will only have what your brain trusts you to have. And that's the beauty of this stuff, is you don't have to wait till you get injured. You can get cleared out first. You can get MOT'd. Clear all these dysfunctions, because you can find them really quick and correct them. You can't be fixed. Your brain does that itself. It will fix and heal itself. Rapid, like super, super rapid. Like, I hope you don't mind me saying again, for the size you are, your shoulders were piss weak.
Don't believe him.
And this little ex-Navy lad was able to just pull your arms out of the sky when I was testing you. And we found a ligament in your neck that was, it was sending information that weren't correct, because you've had multiple injuries. We won't go into all of those, but you had something in your neck. We corrected that and you got full strength back. I couldn't move you. Your body did that itself. It upregulated, it fixed itself within the second. That's what we're dealing with. That's what's so exciting.
I couldn't believe it. That's why I wanted to try it and see, because I'd heard other people, you know, you get rave reviews from people that come to see you, and I wanted to experience it myself. And you know, it's like there's some sort of voodoo going on. It's not. It's tapping into an unexplored territory of the human body, as it were. I mean, it's a really fascinating subject. There's been a lot of scientific terminology that's been used, but someone listening right now, how could they improve what they're doing other than obviously coming to see you?
Absolutely, believe that things can change. The biggest problem I find is mindset. People are a slave to a diagnosis they've been given. For instance, okay, I won't labour the point. A guy came in and saw me 2 weeks ago. I've had plantar fasciitis all my life. I've seen everyone. I've still got it. That's because he didn't have it. It weren't plantar fasciitis, it was something else. He believed he had something because someone spoke over him. You know, we are fearfully, wonderfully made. I am 100% down the line on that. We don't know what we're truly capable of. But what I do know we're capable of is healing. Our bodies are far more capable than we ever gave credit to. I've seen people walking out and they've had back pain their entire life, and it went in one session. But your body is able to heal. It's able to do so much more than you can ever believe. You've just got to believe that it can work for you as well. It's a case of, you got to have faith in your body, you know. And I run a class on Friday called Vintage Athletes. You have to be over 80 years old to come into that. And these guys come in, and I've seen them change, and they're stronger. They're less doddery on their feet. I get them moving around. They train pretty much the same as I do. No comments on this one yet, Mo. That's not because I train like an 8-year-old. They kettlebell swing, they deadlift. The difference is they were willing to give it a go, and they were optimistic. They were happy to give something a go, and then they believed, and their bodies changed. Your body will continue to change and adapt if you create the right environment for it. If you stop pouring so much booze down your head, if you feed it something decent, it will help you. Every single thing you do will help you, and that's what I've seen. Have faith in your body; it will heal.
You need to create the environment to grow. And you create the conditions to succeed and perform, basically.
It is. It's don't break yourself. You know, don't resign yourself to the scrap heap. No one can, like we said at the start, the human spirit, only you're in charge of that. Only you break that. People will try your entire life to break that. But once you stand up and once you say, no, I will overcome this, it happens. It's in you. You don't have to be special forces. You don't have to be a Royal Marine. You turned up before you joined the Corps, Mo. You as a bloke. You still are that same man. You've just learned a lot. You've been provided with a lot of experiences to help change your mindset. That weren't something that was done to you. That happened within you. And every human being is capable of that. It's why do people who suddenly get diagnosed with cancer go off and cycle the world when for the rest of their life they were sat watching telly? They were given an opportunity to change, and you've got to take them opportunities. You've got to believe it, and it's in every single one of us. It's our human spirit, you know. Even though I do on the injury side, it's the human spirit. It's the person first. Believe you can change, because it's true. I see it all the time, every day. You see it in a different way with the mental health side of things, which is just amazing. And mind, body, spirit. Your body will heal. You could have one thing in your body that's not working, and your body will let you in through one of three doors: mind, body, or spirit. I've had people in and I can't work on them, because what I was offering them weren't what their body needed. I sent them to Rock to Recovery, a will name drop, with Jamie Sanderson, an amazing, I say mental health charity. That doesn't do it justice, and it makes people step away. But it's mind coaching. It's winning on the mind. It's the battlefront for the mind. And I've seen people go pain-free because they had one session of talking and all their pain's gone. It's like that's what their body needed, you know. So your body will let you use those resources, but the one thing that you can't give up on is that belief. You've got to have that hope, that faith, and I think hope is the thing. Hope's the thing. As long as you can hope, and you know there's hope. People give up because they're out of hope. They can't see a way out. So I just try and provide opportunities to show them that there is a way out and things can change. And very quickly, like we did the neurology earlier on, you can change your understanding and perception of your body already. Maybe that's a lifelong thing. You've seen something change instantly for you. So yeah, hope. I think hope, don't let anyone break you.
I think that's a fantastic message, and one that will be a good one to finish on. For those that are listening, how do they want to know more? They want to come and see you for treatment or for some sort of input? What's the best way of them getting in touch with you?
So my clinic's called 360 Rehab, the movement clinic. I'm in Exmouth in Devon. It's a beautiful little part of the world if you want to go on your little holiday. But just my website, 360rehab.com, and all there. So yeah, I mean, the way I work is we've now got a functional brain scanner. So a lot of people come in with certain injuries and they say, "Oh, my foot got a muscle tear and it won't heal." Put them on a brain scanner and it laser tracks your eyes, gives you a few little tasks to do, and it tells you if your brain's working or not. And then lo and behold, most people's foot problem isn't in their foot. They've got a brain dysfunction, and the beauty of that is, it's rapid. It's really quick. The brain works super fast and heals itself. It's just a load of bioelectrical synapses. So I can brain scan. So you come in for a body MOT. So I'll brain scan you first. I'll do a functional biomechanical check, and then I'll do a neurological check. Pretty much once we've done that, we know what's going on. We know where to go for. We can hit the spot pretty quick. So that's what we do. My biggest thing is I don't want people to keep coming back. If that's happening, then I've failed. But we do have to change the mindset. And the mindset is, don't just think you're going to pay someone money and your body heals itself. Depending on what it is, there's a journey to be had. You might need to change your lifestyle. For instance, sitting down at an office all day is not what we're designed to do. Your body will just dumb down. You need to move. So it might be a movement strategy you need. Or, it could be something very complex, could take one session. Something fairly innocuous could take 6. Generally I don't see anyone past six sessions because they're done and dusted. I want people to get back to life. There's nothing better than seeing someone down on the beach or seeing someone out running who couldn't run because of an injury when you come in. That's what I like seeing. I just want to be real, relevant, and have a purpose, and I think I'm there now. I'm really happy with what I know. I know I don't know as much as I want to, but today I know as much as I do, and I'll do as much as I can with that. It's not going to stop me learning, but every day I'll check myself in with that.
That's awesome, mate. And for what it's worth, I know that you're real, and I know that you're relevant, and your passion in human science is plain to see. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been fascinating listening to what you know. There's plenty more in there, I know, even though that I do know that you've got a bit of a pinhead, but that's fine. But mate, thank you very much for your time, and I've got no doubt in my mind that people that are listening to this would have taken a great deal away from it. Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you for having me on.